My name is Blake Palmer. I work for New South Wales DPI in soils research. I recently completed an honours project looking at micronutrient cation stratification under different management and irrigation practices. So specifically we looked at four micronutrient cations: iron, copper, manganese and zinc. Ultimately we found that there was a very large total pool of these micronutrients in fertile verticiles. However, there was a comparatively smaller pool of the proportion that is available to plants, plant available micronutrients. Management practices did influence the stratification and availability of these. For example, tillage. Under minimum tillage practices, copper and manganese were both increased, and under conventional tillage, the stratification was reduced. However, total plant available amount was also reduced. Iron was connected to pH, so we saw a pH decrease over one of the trial fields, and that increased iron availability. And in the other trial field, we actually saw an increase in pH, which decreased iron availability. Ultimately, all of these micronutrients existed in concentrations that were above the critical limit and below the toxicity limit. So pretty much they're not of significant concern. However, zinc did differ in that in the beginning of the trial, a 22-year long-term project, it was sitting marginally on the critical concentration determined from DTPA, and even after this 22 years, it was still sitting in that critical concentration. What this is suggesting to us is that there's a significant total pool of zinc, and that the soil properties that are actually converting this zinc to the smaller plant available pool are pretty consistent. So that's a good thing. In our soil coring, if we took a 10 centimetre standard topsoil depth and divided into 2 centimetre increments, we actually found that there was significant stratification even in that topsoil. So what that means is that if you're going through standard topsoil sampling and you get an average report of your zinc concentration over this 0 to 10 centimetres, you might think that you're above the critical concentration, but depending on where you're planting, you might actually be below it. So in a lot of instances, growers might choose to plant a legume, a chickpea, for example, as a rotation crop, and might be planting deep to chase moisture. And actually, if you're making these judgment calls based on a standard soil sampling interval, you could be inadvertently planting into deficient soil.